Chapter 23. Into the Lion's Den. Redcoats! Matt was sure of it. He had heard them before he saw them. The men's angry voices filled the frigid night air. Had they come to arrest him and Thomas? Or to string them up right here? Silently, Matt inched his way closer to the front of the house, staying well hidden between the hedges. He could see that they weren't soldiers at all, but rather a group of men in ragged clothing, carrying torches and waving clubs. They had formed a tight circle around something, but Matt couldn't see what or who was inside of it. He heard one of the men shout, "You Tory trash!" Another yelled, "Go back to your king!" It was then that Matt realized they were patriots. What were they doing at the Hewsons' house? Were they there to hurt them, he wondered? There was no time to find out. Thomas was depending on him to get to the party and complete their mission. General Washington was depending on him, too. Silently, Matt stole through the bushes, unnoticed by the angry mob. He made his way to the party. The cobblestones, licked by an icy drizzle, shimmered in the lamplight. The houses he passed were dark, with most windows shuttered but for a few flickering candles burning behind the thick, wavy glass. At the end of the block he saw one house that stood out from all the others, just as Thomas said it would. Every window blazed and dazzled with light. Carriages lined the street. The sound of music and gay laughter floated out from the open front door. Without a doubt, this was the house. Matt slipped his hand into his pocket and felt for the wooden button and the gold coin. He made his way to the side door. He took a deep breath before lifting the brass knocker. Seconds later, a pudgy man with a large red nose and a white wig appeared. Matt studied the man, who stared coldly back. "Wolf Hunter," Matt whispered, his insides running cold. "Wolf Hunter? You?" the butler whispered, looking him up and down. "They're bigger fools than I thought. Have you the gold piece?" Matt handed him the coin. The butler bit it, and when it proved to be real, he greedily shoved it into his pocket. "The sleeves on this coat will be too big for you," he told Matt. "You'll have to turn up the cuffs. I'll give you some rags to stuff the shoes so you don't trip. And this wig will probably be too big as well, but you'll have to manage." He handed Matt his disguise. Once Matt had changed, he glanced at his reflection in the window and was glad that his friends could not see him in a wig and ruffled clothes. Then he went to the kitchen, where the butler gave him a tray of glasses filled with red punch. "The musicians are playing the third minuet already, and the dancers will want refreshments," the butler told Matt. "I have 3 others serving tonight, so just follow their lead. Move around the room. Hold the tray steady while the guests help themselves to a glass. Mind, you are a servant in this house. Look no one in the eye, and make no conversation. A good servant is invisible." "What about the man with the scar?" Matt asked. "Where do I find—" But the butler raised his hand to stop him. "I know nothing about the plans you and your lot have cooked up, and I will take no part in them. The gold piece is all I bargained for. What you do beyond serving the punch is your own business." He led the way through a hallway and into a large room where they met a crowd of joyful revelers. Women in billowing skirts of colorful satins and silks sailed past, their smiling faces painted clown white with circles of crimson on their cheeks. Old snuff-nosed men with lace at their necks and gaudy ribbons at their knees traded talk about the price of cod and the latest cures for gout. Heads were heaped with mounds of white curls, and the air was thick with the tang of spice. People milled around the dance floor as the keys of a harpsichord plinked out popular ballads. But what caught Matt's eye was the sea of scarlet jackets. English officers stood in groups, stiff as last year's cornstalks in their blood-red coats and white trousers. He was in the heart of a loyalist party. How on earth would he ever find the man he was looking for? A woman led a tall officer wearing a haughty look on his face to Matt. "Ah, General Howe, will you try our punch?" the woman asked. Matt stared in disbelief. It was really General Howe! He nodded and reached for a glass from Matt's tray. Matt stared at the British commander, who had kept Boston hostage and the rebels on the run. Not only was Matt in the lion's den, but here was the lion himself, a mere 3 inches away. If Matt was discovered here, he would surely be hung for treason. "There are no mistakes," Matt remembered Thomas telling him. No mistakes at all. Chapter 24. Tar and Feathers. Back at the Hewsons' house, the rebels' attack raged. "Papa!" screamed Mercy from the upstairs landing. "Come back, Papa! Please come back!" Hope and Faith cried. Charity sobbed beside them. Downstairs, Lily and Emma raced into the sitting room, where Mistress Hewson and cook were peering out the windows. The girls looked out to find a small group of men in the street wielding torches, clubs, and iron pokers. Their eyes were wild and angry. and like a pack of mad dogs about to attack, they had formed a circle around their prey. Katy cowered in front of the men, frozen in fear. She looked so tiny and helpless. A large, fierce-looking man grabbed her by her wrists. The moment Master Hewson stepped out of the door, the shouts of the angry mob rose. "Seize him! Seize him!" someone cried. "William Stafford, Daniel Healy, you are my neighbors. I beg of you, let the girl go," Master Hewson cried out to the men in the crowd. "Begging, are you?" one of the men heckled. "How does it feel, now that the tables are turned? We've been begging your General Howe for months now to show us some mercy, but little good it did us. Our harbor is still closed, and our children are starving. And you dare ask for mercy?" "The girl is not even my child," Master Hewson told them. "Matt, I want my brother," Katy screamed. "We didn't come for the child," a man said, stepping out of the crowd. "We've come for you, Hewson, and now we have what we want." He turned to the man holding Katy. "Unhand her." The moment they let Katy go, she ran for the house, but her ankle was still weak and throbbing, and she tripped and fell. As she struggled back up, the twins hurried outside to rescue her. They carried Katy back into the house, and Mistress Hewson bolted the door once again. "I was so scared," Katy sobbed. "Those bad men hurt my arm." "They're animals," Mistress Hewson whispered, her lips quivering. "But they are patriots," Lily thought. "They are supposed to be the good ones." Everyone rushed back to the sitting-room window. From there they saw the kind-hearted Master Hewson trying desperately to reason with the mob. He tried to talk above their shouts, but they only jeered louder. The circle grew tighter. Master Hewson shielded his face with his hands as one of the men knocked off his wig. Another bound him with rope. Inside, Mistress Hewson covered her eyes with her hands. "Oh, dear Lord, help him! They mean to kill him!" "Papa, Papa!" the children wailed from the stairs. Lily's legs went weak as she watched the men rip off Master Hewson's shirt, take a pot of steaming tar and pour it over Master Hewson's head and torso. As he writhed in pain, they emptied a sack of feathers over him. Then, with ropes, they hoisted him up on a cart and drove down the street, with the angry mob running behind them. The family watched in horror as the cart disappeared down an icy lane. "Papa!" little Charity cried. "Bring back my Papa!"